Do I go to hell in your religion?
Do you go to hell? If you reject God, you do go to hell. Yeah,
Why?
because you rejected God.
No, I don't believe he exists. Why do I need to be tortured for eternity because I don't believe something?
Yeah, so God says that the humans that reject God and don't believe in Him are arrogant and
I'm not arrogant. I just don't believe. Do you believe in the tooth fairy?
oh no.
Are you arrogant because you don't believe in the tooth fairy?
Yeah, well, like God
That's a
sent
yes or no
prophets.
question. Are you arrogant because you don't believe in the tooth fairy?
Well, no, because the Tooth Fairy didn't really make
Oh,
a
yeah,
good
because there's
case.
no evidence. Great. So there's no evidence
Yeah,
that your God is real, which is why I don't believe in it.
yeah. So, like God, He did send prophets and
I don't believe that to be true. I don't
and books
believe
and
that God would
whatnot.
send a pervert warlord to be his mouthpiece.
Yeah, that's what happened. I mean,
That's what you believe. I don't find that to be credible. He couldn't
yeah,
even read or write according to your own narrative. People
yeah,
had to write down his supposed words after he died.
yeah. That's true.
And you want me to believe that a god picked an illiterate man in the desert to speak to that couldn't even communicate his own words, and then after he died, his followers just happened to magically remember what his words are? Do you remember a conversation that you had, I don't know, 5 years ago? Do you remember all of the conversation?
Well, if it's a really important conversation and it's the word of God, I try to remember it as best I could. Right?
You wouldn't. The fact of the matter is the human memory is not good. We literally can remember a tiny fraction of the conversations we had, even just hours later. That's why if you quiz somebody on what they saw literally just moments prior, all of the details would be contradictory. So you want me to believe that some illiterate man in the desert died, and then his followers came after him 10, 15, 20 years later and
Yeah.
had his
They,
supposed words written down from their memory. That to
yeah.
me is what is straining credulity here.
Yeah, the followers were alive at the time. It was a 30-year period. So,
Yeah, and why should I believe any of that to be true? Because the book is full of nonsense claims like Muhammad split the moon in two. The hadiths
yeah,
say silly things like the tail of the sheep. If you eat the fat from the tail of the sheep, it'll cure your sciatica pain. Aisha was 6 years old when she was married off. Why would I
yeah,
possibly find this
that
religion
is
to be
true.
believable?
I mean, I can understand that you don't agree with things that happened in the past with your current understanding of society and rules and culture. So,
Okay, so God created
I
this
get that.
scenario in which it's almost nearly impossible to believe unless you were raised in it. And then if you don't believe it, even though you weren't raised in it, then you get tortured for all of eternity. Make that make sense for me.
Yeah, well, you phrase it that way. I mean, there's a lot of converts to Islam that weren't born Muslim, right?
Very
And
few.
not, they quite a lot, and like missionaries, the way Islam spread through conquest and through missionaries.
That's right, through conquest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
You guys owned slaves before we did.
Uh, I guess I don't know. I'm not sure about the
Yeah,
Christian
that's exactly why
slavery.
Northern Africa has so many Muslims. It's because y'all went down there and conquested them. The same way we came over to the Americas and conquested the Americas. Fact of the
Yeah.
matter is, conquest is the way by which all of these religions got popular. They didn't get popular because they were great ideas.
Well, both, conquest and ideas. You need both, to make that happen. And yeah, well, slavery was just a part of the world at that time. Romans had slaves, pharaohs, the
Oh
ancient
man,
Egyptians had slaves.
we had a huge pivot to slavery. Before we pivot to slavery, Conquistador, thank you for the $5 super chat. Conquif says, "Have believers ever stopped to think about how inbred we would be if humanity came from two people? It's insanity. I know it. I've brought this up before, but you know what the Christians and other believers tell me? Like, well, God did a miracle, right? So anytime there's some sort of anomaly that doesn't match what we know about the real world, you can just wish it
No.
away with God doing a miracle. But
Yeah.
your new pivot was slavery, right? Do you think slavery is good?
Oh no, it's very bad.
It's very bad. Does your God endorse slavery?
Oh no, it doesn't. He doesn't endorse it, but he codified it into law and organized it.
So he does
Regulated.
endorse it then, yeah. If he codified it in the law rather than saying don't do it, then he endorsed it. So sounds to me like you're disagreeing with the moral your moral perspectives
Oh
are
no,
disagreeing with your God.
so God didn't encourage it. He just allowed and regulated it,
Yeah,
right?
could he have said don't do it?
He could have,
Oh,
but
but he
he
didn't.
didn't.
Okay, fantastic.
Well,
Yeah. If you walk into your bedroom and you see your son beating his sister with a pipe, are you going to say you can only beat your sister every once in a while? Or are you going to say that you absolutely can't beat your sister?
yeah. So the issue with this is that so what's the difference between me and God is that
That's
God
not an answer to my question. If you walk into your
allows.
child's bedroom and one of them is striking the other, do you say that you can do a little bit of that, or do you say you can do none of that?
I would disagree with that and say none of that, right?
Then none of that. Okay. And why would you do that?
Because I don't think it's right.
Right. Yes, because you don't want it to happen. Right. So if
Yeah,
God didn't want slavery to happen, then God literally could have just said, "Don't do slavery."
yeah. If God didn't want slavery to happen, he would not create evil and not create slavery in the first place before
Yeah.
telling us to
Okay.
do it,
So your
right?
God condones slavery. You disagree with the morals of your God. Thank you
But
for letting
my
us know. I appreciate that.
my God created slavery, created evil, and
Yeah, you're
uh,
making it worse for you. You're making your God sound worse with every minute. Your God
yeah.
also
So
is okay with marrying children. Do you think that we should be
uh,
allowed to marry children? Why is it in Iraq you guys are trying to to lower the age of consent to 9?
it's a cultural thing, and
Oh, it's
I don't agree
cultural.
with it.
What's the cultural aspect of the Iraqi people that would lead them to think it's okay to marry 9-year-olds?
I mean, marrying young was like a part of the past.
Yeah,
So
but what is it culturally inside of the country of Iraq that would lead their parliamentary government to be taking up a motion to allow child marriage? What cultural piece?
it's not cultural peace. It's
You
like
said it was culture, not me.
yeah, okay. So it's not cultural peace. It's like a certain socioeconomic situation that allows this type of child marriage to happen. But
Right.
once people
But
get advanced,
why?
they stop
Why
doing
do
these
why do
things.
these people think it's okay to marry 9-year-olds?
Well, in their world, their paradigm, they think it's fine. They don't have a problem with it, you know.
Maybe
And
because your prophet married a 6-year-old and consummated a marriage with her at 9?
yeah, I mean,
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Or do you think
yeah.
that we should be allowed to consummate marriages with 9-year-olds?
I mean, I want to say that Islam does allow this, but
It's
it
a yes
doesn't
or no.
encourage it.
Do you think that 9-year-olds should be consummated?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to answer with some nuance more than yes or no.
Sounds to me like the real answer is that you're okay with it, but you don't want to say it publicly because you're going to get completely hounded on.
Oh, okay. I'm not saying I'm not okay with it. I'm just saying it's not what happens in this time and place. It's obsolete.
What time and place? Because the people of Iraq are trying to implement it as we speak.
Oh yeah, they're due to the American invasion. They kind of destroyed the whole country,
Okay,
and
so
there are a lot of
Iraq
evil over
needs to
there.
marry 9-year-olds because the American West did bad things to them.
No, it doesn't need, but the damage that the American West did in Iraq caused their socio-economic level
Yeah,
to
what did we do? What
deteriorate.
happened to their economy and their society that
It
now
was
requires
destroyed.
that 9-year-olds get married?
It was completely destroyed. There's ignorance.
I
There's
know, but
poverty.
how
There's
does that
erosion.
lead to needing to marry 9-year-olds?
Oh yeah, so all of that leads to marrying, child marriage. You know, if maybe
How?
even worse
How?
conditions might bring back slavery. You know,
How are the conditions right now in Iraq leading to children needing to be married?
yeah. So poverty, you know, like a father can't feed his small child, 10-year-old child, so he marries her off. So
So
that's what
just
happens.
married.
It's
So
very sad.
you guys can't handle adoption. You don't know how adoption works.
Yeah, well, no one is willing to adopt her. No one has
How
the
about
resources
how about you guys set up
to
a
do it.
social safety net? Do you guys know how taxes work?
Yeah,
Have you
that's a good
have you
idea.
figured out taxes yet?
Oh yeah, they have taxes. You know, you don't
Okay,
have to.
is there a reason why you can't collect a tax so that
Oh
people with children that are living in poverty can have at least some bare minimum of food to keep
yeah,
their
so
children
the whole
alive rather than
country.
selling off their daughters for marriage at age
Yeah, so
9?
the whole country is poor. There's corruption. There's
Yeah.
very bad stuff happening. So it's obviously not working the way that you're describing, right?
Yeah,
Collect
it's not
taxes,
working
make
the
it
way
better.
it's not working the way that you would want it to work. And the reason is because it's ran not only by fascists, but it's ran by religious zealots.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to, you know, tell you what's happening over there and what caused that
I know what led to
situation
it.
to
There's a lot of
happen.
factors that led to the poverty in Iraq. What I'm saying is that
Yeah,
marrying
so
children is not an appropriate
poverty,
answer to it. And I was going to let you know as well, HFT. As
poverty,
much as I
brutalism
appreciate you talking,
is
I just
very,
want
very
you to
bad.
know that every time you talk while I talk, no one can hear you. My mic is cranked all the way up. I've got your mic turned down on YouTube. You'll be saved for all of eternity on YouTube, just mumbling in the background of me talking. So if you want to have anyone hear what you're saying, you should try speaking when I'm finished.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking over me also, you know, so, you know, go ahead.
All right. So, what about the socioeconomic situation in Iraq requires that children be married off?
Yeah, so like I said, poverty breeds all these type of stuff, for, you know,
You said that, but
poverty.
how? How does poverty need children to be married?
Like, I gave you an example. You told me, oh, they should adopt and collect taxes and, you know, set up a social safety net.
Yeah, that's how taxes work. I grew
Oh,
up
yeah.
poor as well.
Oh,
I had
oh,
7
perfect.
siblings.
Yeah.
We didn't have any money, and it turns out we all survived without having to sell our daughters in marriage.
Yeah, that's good for you, but in Iraq, they don't have the same wealth that's present in the U.S. So
Okay, so rather than using the congressional measures that they have to set up a safety
congressional.
net for
Oh
their
yeah,
people, they
Congress.
said, no, we're just going to let them marry children. That's asinine.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
making your religion look worse and worse every time you talk.
yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that it's too bad. Like it's far, it's way beyond, you know, these measures that you're proposing. It's much more worse than what you're saying. So
I'm
the
sure it
situation
is.
is really bad. So
Yes,
so
I'm
that's
sure it
why.
is. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, over there, if they had a way, they would have tried to figure it out. But obviously, they don't. They don't need your suggestion. You know, oh, raise some taxes and fix it up, easy. You know,
Right. So
it's a
rather
bit
than
more
creating a social
harder.
safety net that would help support the poorest people in the economy, they said, no, we're gonna sell 9-year-old girls in marriage. And so all you're doing is explaining to me another reason why I wouldn't even want to believe in your God, even if there was some logical, rational reason to do so.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's no hope really.
I know there's no hope. All right, HFT, thanks for coming up. I appreciate you, man.
Goodbye.
Cheers.